car deck and how loud I had to turn it up, and also no bass. This is poor mixing and poor mastering. The mastering level was not high enough above the tape noise. I remember this. Anyhow, I've gotten older and I was in bands and I always knew how to record a band, so I always owned great gear, which always led to me mastering tools to master music. So I took a stab at remastering mine all mine. What I did was found any areas of bass note I could find and the drums, and I boosted it. And I also brought up the overall gain of the song so it could be a little bit louder. And as you can hear, the bass is so buried that when I boosted it, the drums naturally came up in volume too. The next experiment, time pending, is to actually play bass along with the song and record it and mix it. See what you guys think. And here's a clip. Keep rocking, John Schiller. Well, John, I have to tell you, and we're going to start with the Motley Crue thing. First of all, Motley Crue, the way they dressed and came out looking was more metal than their music was. They had almost like a Judas Priest kind of hardcore. Priest is metal. But the first two albums had a little, the first one's even a little more punky, but the second one, Shout at the Devil, the title alone, the look, the whole fire and brimstone, all that stuff, definitely screamed heavy metal. They went on Heavy Metal Day at the US Festival where they gained a lot of attention. But overall, Motley Crue is not heavy metal. So I think that the whole heavy metal thing came because of the whole Image thing, the Heavy Metal Day. They broke at the US Festival, like all these different, they opened up for Ozzy. I mean, it was all more of an Image thing. Now, I have to say, and I'm sorry to say, John, but I listened to your sound clip from Mine All Mine, and the bass sounds way too bizarre. It is too heavy and driving. There's a lot going on in this song with the keyboards, and is the main driving riff. The bass is too thick. It does not sound good when it comes up that high. I don't know what the situation is. There's a complication with the song. I thought maybe Mine All Mine might have been the wrong song to boost up the bass. What do you think, Dave?
We'll start with Motley Crue.
Right.
And the ever-eternal discussion about whether they're heavy metal or not. I think they're more metal than you do.
Right.
But he does raise an interesting point.
Yeah.
Which is, if a heavier band comes along,
right,
does that mean all bands before then are not metal anymore?
That's a good
because
question.
They're not as heavy.
Yeah.
And I would say no.
Okay.
Because Black Sabbath is arguably the first metal band.
Right.
Or certainly one of the first metal bands.
Right.
Do they stop being metal because Metallica came along and were heavier and harder than them? I mean, I would say no. But there seems to be a lot of that because, you have bands like Metallica and Anthrax and Slayer, and these were metal bands. Right. And so does that make all bands that came before that were quote-unquote metal not metal now?
Right.
There's even heavier bands than that.
Right.
But I would say no. I mean, and I still think Motley Crue, certainly in image and certainly in music and certainly in the early albums, was a metal band.
Right. Okay.
You want to make an argument that when Girls came out, that they softened things up and that they were doing it on purpose because they wanted to be popular? Yeah, sure. I could buy into that.
Right.
But I'll go to the grave saying they were a metal band, and I respect anybody who disagrees, especially you, Dave.
Okay.
But that's where I stand. And regarding his bass boost, yeah, I definitely hear the bass in the song, so he did a good job in that way. But I think the challenge is that the bass was so buried that when he brings it up, it's louder, but it's still
it's distorted.
Yeah, it's distorted. It's muddy. Yeah. You really can't appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, I'm listening to it and I'm like, that's all Mike played? Yeah, why did we even bother boosting it up? But I think the problem is you really can't appreciate what the heck he was originally playing in the song.
Yeah, you really have to go back to the original tapes and remaster and do it properly. That's true. So letter number 2. Hi, Daves. I'm an aspiring guitarist at 43, and I just got down, for the most part, Ain't Talking About Love, with all the different amps and pedals, but I have no idea how to get even close to Eddie's sound. Since your kids play and you may have an idea as to what I'm talking about, any help in this area would be awesome. Thanks, Jeff Kurtzdofer in Tonawanda, New York. Dave, you had an answer for this, right?
Yes, I did. So our buddy Eric Broadbent,
Right.
of the Now Music Gear Network,
Right.
sells something called, and so I apologize up front because I'm not a guitarist, so I don't know what I'm saying. But he sells a preset package, and it's called the Premium Line 6 Helix Preset Package.
Okay.
And you can buy it at the Line 6 Marketplace. I think it's like $15. There's also an HX Stomp preset set. And if you buy that and do whatever to your guitar with it, you will sound like Eddie Van Halen. Eric actually had a clip of him playing a guitar with these presets. And Eric's a pretty good guitar player, number one. He can certainly play the Van Halen licks. But that tone is Ed's tone all the way.
Sure.
So if you're interested in buying it, you can get it at shop.line6, the number 6, .com/marketplace.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Awesome. That's great.
I always get / and / confused, so don't ask me which way it goes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are on to letter number 3 from Liddell Wallace. And Liddell says, Bart Walsh was hilarious. I saw the DLR Band at the amphitheater at Pelham, south of Birmingham, Alabama. We hung out with Bart at a club after the show, and he's a super nice guy. Thanks for the interview, Liddell Wallace. Oh, Liddell, yeah, Bart is a really fun guy, and he's a quirky character and a great guitar player. In fact, Bart played some riffs during the interview, and I had to cut it out because of the distortion on the phone. But he is just such a great player and a fun guy. And he's a wild man, too. He's unpredictable. You never know what the hell he's going to do. So I'm looking forward to his 6 Degrees of Van Halen band. We're hopefully going to follow that and see if when he comes out and around about that. And Dave, what do you make of this?
I'm really curious to see that band when it comes around.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see how that works out. Letter number 4, we're moving like lightning, like Dave likes it. Ryan Clark. And he says here, hi, Dave and Dave, it's your favorite college student again. Thank you again for putting out great content every month, especially when the band isn't doing anything to keep us fans engaged. I have an interesting question I'd like to get both your opinions on. There's so much debate about Van Halen's cover tracks. They seem to be quite polarizing for a lot of people. My question for the two of you is, if you could choose one song to hear covered on a Roth-era Van Halen album, which song would it be? My personal choice would be In the Summertime by Mungo Jerry. I think Dave would sound great on that track, and I know Eddie would spice up the backing track while Alex and Michael Anthony held a perfect catchy beat. Anyways, hope you are having a great summer. The Toastmaster General of the 21 and under demographic, Ryan Clark. Well, he's got his own title there. Look at that. This guy's getting cocky. So, so yeah, I want to say, I want to hear the cover left off 1984, which is Wilson Pickett's In the Midnight Hour. Now, this band, Van Halen, recorded this song and fully produced it, and it is finished and complete, and left it off 1984 because Eddie didn't want any covers on 1984. But that song really keeps me up at night because I know that it's done and all ready, and I want that so bad. I can taste it, Dave. I can taste it. I actually once begged Alex Van Halen to play it for me, and he refused to do so. But
I know you love that song.
Yeah.
I know that is like your holy grail.
Yeah, it's my holy grail.
I was thinking I would love to hear them do a full-on cover of a Cream song.
Ooh.
You know, something like Crossroads.
Yeah.
Which they've jammed on, or, you know, they used to jam on I'm So Glad back in the day.
Right, yeah.
During the 83 tour. But I'd love them to do from beginning to end a Cream song like Crossroads. I think, you know, because Ed's always talking how Clapton is an inspiration.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'd love to hear that, too. I think that would be great. Letter number 5 comes from Scott Everett. And he says, guys, I love the podcast, and thank you all again for giving the fans an outlet to hear their favorite band, Van Halen. I get sick to my stomach when hearing that you believe Van Halen is two different bands because they had two successful lead singers. AC/DC had two lead singers. Are they two different bands? No. The music is what makes Van Halen Van Halen. The band was changing prior to Dave leaving and just continued that transition with the vocal range of Sammy. But again, the same band because it was driven by the engine of the Van Halen brothers and the bass and background vocals of Michael Anthony. You've also got to get into the age-old debate if Dave left the band or if he was removed from the band. The analogy of Friends, we were on a break, was perfect. Needless to say, Dave's big head led to this. In Noel Monk's book, Running with the Devil, it clearly outlines how Dave hit the band with his EP after he already recorded it. His big head didn't allow him to talk to the band beforehand and talk it through. The F Dave and David Lee Hoot chants and the animosity were well deserved. I know you are pro Dave, but he was by no means innocent as you make him out to be and spit just as much venom back at the band during this time. It is one amazing band. I don't care who the hell is singing. I just want them to be active again. Thanks for the podcast, Scott Everett. Well, Scott, first of all, kudos for the challenge. I love it. Second is, okay, so let me break it down for you. The AC/DC analogy, I appreciate you reaching to that, but let me explain. AC/DC never really changed their music. They are pretty much the same. The Ramones have had different members, never changed their sound. They're like the Ramones. AC/DC has a sound, the Ramones have a sound. Van Halen completely changed. Now, you listen to Drop Dead Legs from 1984, and then listen to Love Walks In from 5150. You're going to tell me that's the same band? Now, if Van Halen weren't named after Ed and Al's last name, and they were called like Mammoth or something, there would have been a big battle to change the name. Warner Brothers even wanted the band to change the name because they thought Roth was too identifiable to the band's image. But I have to also say, I don't think Dave was innocent. His ego was way out of control. The success of the EP and the videos for California Girls and Just a Gigolo and landed him a movie deal. He was going Hollywood. Plus, Ed was sick of guitar rock and wanted to write pop songs on keyboards. In terms of the F Dave, David Lee Hoot thing, I think it was just kind of cheap WWF bullshit. I'm surprised Warner Brothers didn't put a stop to that. I thought it was especially annoying because Sammy was the big agitator of that, and I remember feeling like, hey, fuck you, dude, because I like Dave. And I didn't also feel like there needed to be, like, choosing a side, you know what I mean? So that's my take. What do you stand, Dave?
Well, I am not as adamant as you are that it was two bands.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you take me out drinking and you try to convince me that they were the same band, you might convince me.
Wow. Take you out drinking, tickle your ass with a feather, you might agree.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Right.
I
tell you, a bacon cheeseburger goes down nice. Whenever I buy you dinner, you like that too.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So that's why I always agree with everything you say. But in terms of the band being two bands or not, I mean, I could see the argument going either way. I do lean towards that they're two separate bands.
Right.
But occasionally we do have people on the show and they don't agree with that, and they're like, you know what, it was the same band. And I respect that opinion.
Sure.
And I could see where they're coming from in that regard.
Yeah.
The second part, I totally agree that Dave is not innocent at all.
Right.
I mean, first of all, Dave was in charge of a lot in that band.
Yeah.
So for him to think, well, I'm just going to do a solo album and they're not going to have a problem with it, I could totally see why he was thinking that way.
Yeah.
Because he was in charge of a lot and other members of the band weren't or didn't care. And so, I mean, quite frankly, the year before, or a couple of years before, Ed had done Beat It with Michael Jackson.
Right.
He was on the Starfleet album.
All without Dave's knowledge.
With Brian May.
Yeah.
Right, all without Dave's knowledge.
Right.
Although actually I think when the Brian May and Friends album came out, I think that might have been without Ed's knowledge either.
Oh, really?
Because I think that kind of snuck out and Ed didn't know that was going to be a legit album.
Wow.
But regardless, Dave's probably sitting there going, well, Ed's done this stuff kind of sort of before. So what's the difference if I do an EP?
Right.
And it's not even, I'm going to say it, heavy metal, hard rock, whatever.
Right.
It's totally different than that, which was by design. Dave did that on purpose. And I really think he was like, oh, I'll do an EP, see how it goes. And then we'll go back and we'll do a Van Halen album.
Right, right.